Welcome to Marketing Matters. I'm Peter Applebaum. Who said that advertising isn't fun? That's why we're here at Luna Park to enjoy the thrills and spills of Australia's first ever Advertising Week. We're going to speak to Facebook, the Warehouse Group. We're also going to speak to the global CEO of Advertising Week and a man that markets marijuana. First up, we're going to speak to Matt Schenker, who's the global CEO of Advertising Week. So we're on the Ferris wheel at Advertising Week, Luna Park, and we're speaking to the global CEO, Matt Schenker. Matt, welcome to Marketing Matters.
Great to be here with you, Peter.
So what an achievement. From scratch, you've built a global brand in 15 years. How did you do it?
Well, I think the old-fashioned way, hard work. Right. You know, I think it's a little bit of moxie, a little bit of naivete, and a whole lot of help from great partners all over the world.
So if I'm a small business and I'm looking to build a global brand, no matter what the industry is, from a marketing point of view, what are the suggestions you would have?
Well, I think in today's digital world, the experience really matters. That's why we're here at Luna Park. That's why last night for our opening gala, we were at the Opera House right behind us. And I think you have to give people an experience. You know, our recipe is a blend of thought leadership on the business of the business and then a little bit of show business. And I think that engagement, that entertainment, and helping people pave the way forward. People all need knowledge, no matter what their business is.
So you no doubt know people who've been attending Advertising Week functions because you have them in New York, in London, in Tokyo, in Mexico City, and now in Sydney.
That's right.
What are some of the outcomes that some of the people who've attended Advertising Week have had?
Well, Peter, since we began back in 2004, you know, the landscape has changed tremendously. I mean, when we started, Facebook was only on the Harvard campus. You know, we were a couple years away from the iPhone, a couple years away from YouTube. We had Jim Squires from Instagram on stage this morning. The first Instagram post was 2010. So almost all of the things that we're talking about now, data analytics, AI, VR, AR, none of those existed at all. So for us, and this is the common thread throughout the world, it's helping people navigate change. And for us at Advertising Week, it's a blend of the timely, largely the technology-driven changes, and the timeless, creativity, diversity and inclusion, female empowerment, talent, you know, bringing in the broader arena of popular culture. And that's a very big part of our DNA as well.
So having spoken to so many marketers from around the world, your partners included, what are the key trends you think that marketers should be aware of over the next 3 to 5 years?
I think the gravitation towards mobile, the rapid pace of technological change makes it harder and harder to engage consumers. You know, all of our behavior has morphed and evolved, you know, so quickly, much faster than anyone could have imagined. So I think those that navigate change will do well. I think, you know, there are great examples of traditional and new media working together. We're talking about a lot of that stuff on the stage here, but I think the smart people figure it out. And that's what we see all over the world, whether we're in Mexico City or London or New York or Tokyo or here in Sydney. You know, the power of big ideas, the power of creativity to solve challenges, and the value of hard work. You know, those separate the winners from the non-winners.
So, Advertising Week 2020 from around the world, how is it going to be different in 2 years' time to the way it is today?
Well, I think the content changes. I can't tell you we were smart enough to have done it purposefully, Peter, but the absence of a theme really works in our favor. So we hand curate a program each market we go to that is very much a reflective mirror of what's happening in popular culture. You know, certainly the gravitation and the dominance of streaming and the consumption of content, the convergence of technology, content distribution, that will continue to be a hot area. How consumers buy things, fundamentally, that's changed dramatically. I know Amazon's relatively new to this market, but there's a lot going on, you know, in that world. And I think how the business models continue to change, the agency model, how clients are continuing to evolve, and sort of that balance between procurement and creative. You know, that's a real hot button as well.
Do you think marketing is a wonderful place to be, or it's less exciting than it was, or it's more exciting?
Listen, it's never been a better, more exciting time, and Our job here is about navigating change. So we're Switzerland. We bring together the whole ecosystem. Brands, creative, ad tech, media owner. So the pace of change is rapid, and our constituents and delegates all around the world, everybody's looking for answers, everybody's looking for an edge, and everybody's looking to share learnings from one part of the world to the other. And what we've been able to build, being in just about the entire world, and we're launching in Johannesburg in 2019, we're able to bring a genuine global perspective, and through our AW360 platform, beyond when the circus comes to town, in this case, quite literally, we're able to extend that thought leadership platform to our delegates around the world all year long.
Matt, you obviously have competitors, some who are probably better established than you, have been around longer. Sure. How do you deal with your competitors? How do you differentiate Advertising Week?
It's a great question, Peter. We stick to our knitting, and we've always felt, my partner Lance Pillersdorf and I always felt that let's make our stuff great, and then everything else takes care of itself. So let's take the example of where we are right now. Here we are on top of a Ferris wheel in Luna Park. The Harbor Bridge is behind us. The Opera House is behind us. So I don't, and in a respectful way, I don't particularly care what any of our so-called competitors are doing. I know what we're doing. We're making a great product. We're very driven to make it better. This is the 25th global edition of Advertising Week. So I think if we continue to work hard, to do great work, to deliver a great product, then everything else takes care of itself.
So what are the final pieces of advice you would have to Australian marketers, given the experience you've had from around the world?
I think you've got to think out of the box. It's an old expression, but it's a true one. I think, the lazy, let's play it safe. I think you have to take risks. I think you have to be willing to go to places that you haven't been before. I think you have to recognize that your yesterday's competitor might be tomorrow's collaborator and friend, and I think you have to take a long-term view. It's not always about maximizing profit today or tomorrow. It's, can you build a product, and if you get the product right, eventually you'll figure out how to make money.
So Matt, thank you so much for your time, and thank you also for not making any jokes about the ups and downs of advertising and marketing.
It's great to be here with you, Peter. Thanks for having us.
Next up, we're going to speak to Jonathan Waker, who's the Chief Marketing Officer of New Zealand's The Warehouse Group. We speak to him about e-commerce, how bricks and mortar stores survive and thrive in this digital world. Jonathan Waker, Chief Marketing Officer of The Warehouse Group, one of New Zealand's most successful companies. Welcome to Sydney, Australia.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
You've had an amazing career. You've been into so many countries. You've got 2 MBAs, not one. You've worked for Yahoo, for Zynga, for the Walt Disney Company, and you're even a banker. Why The Warehouse Group in New Zealand, of all places?
Well, when I met The Warehouse Group, one of the most clear things that I learned and realized was this was a brand that had a soul. And when I look at the brands that I've had the pleasure of working with, they're all brands that stand for something that's bigger than they are. I mean, you think about Yahoo, the entire team that was there really believed that the world was better with Yahoo in it. And for 4 years, we really felt like we were making a difference. And at the end, we made a really good change. And so I had the chance to meet the Warehouse Group. And you meet not only the employees, but the people in the community. You meet the people who work in the stores. I mean, even the people who pick you up at the airport and you meet in town. And it's a company that touches everybody. And it just feels massive. And so when I met the company, there was no way I could say no.
That's an amazing story, joining a company because of its soul. If we could have a look at Yahoo for a short time. Yahoo obviously has had many challenges over the last decade or so, having been the internet darling in the early days. What did you learn from your 4 years at Yahoo that you can implement at the Warehouse Group?
2 major things. The first was what it means to turn a company around from the inside. You really have to build brands from the inside out, and Yahoo really started with its employees. And that was one of the real testaments that Marissa brought to the table, was changing the culture, employees first, because they're your best advocates. The second was just how hard it is to turn around a big company. I mean, Yahoo at the time was the 4th biggest website in the world. It had declining revenues and things hadn't been growing in quite some time. And to stop those losses and turn things around took an amazing amount of work. But when you focus a group of passionate employees around one goal like that, we actually achieved it. We turned it around. It was the first time in the internet history that a company of that size had turned around declining revenue. We were able to sell it to Verizon at the end of the day.
It's an amazing story. So let's fast forward to the Warehouse Group. saying that it's an organisation with soul, how can you discern that?
So when I met employees and I met people in the community who talked about the Warehouse Group, you could see them smile, and the things that the company stands for at its soul are things like helping the community through donations. Over 50 million New Zealand dollars have been given back since the company was created in 1982. The way they stand up in the community, there's this amazing program where they teach kids what it means to have a job well before they finish high school. You know, they do so much for the environment. We just got rid of all of our plastic bags. We're going carbon neutral next year. The ability for this company to actually lead the way, and then you take that forward into places like wellness and anti-family violence. It's a company where when it makes changes, other companies in the region follow suit. We actually just had a bill pass in Parliament that we made a change in 2015 where we would give people time off if they were a victim of family violence. And now it's a law in New Zealand, largely because the organization that I'm a part of led the way.
That must be incredibly satisfying to be working with an organisation like that. Let's look at e-commerce, because obviously that's your experience from an internet point of view for the last 4 years when you're at Yahoo. Obviously the Warehouse Group has a huge physical bricks and mortar footprint. How do you go about ensuring that the Warehouse Group's the short, medium and longer term future is well taken care of?
It's a great question. So there's really three things we're focusing on right now. The first is the amazing opportunity that e-commerce gives you to be laser focused on your customers, right? You can show up where they are when you need you any time of day. That's pretty cool. The second is actually making sure our supply chain is right. And when you think about all the logistics that it takes to get a package from, you know, a shipyard off to a distribution center into someone's home in a matter of hours, let alone days, it really does require some serious re-engineering, and that's part of the transformation we're undergoing right now. Right. And the third is really just making sure we're using our footprint in the right way. We have 274 stores all across New Zealand. We have 12,000 employees. It's important that we use every asset to our advantage to make sure that when we do activate all things e-commerce, we're growing appropriately.
So you have people watching this interview who have their own bricks and mortar store or their business, and they're worried about what digital marketing and the digital revolution is going to, the impact it's going to have on their business. What would you recommend for smaller businesses who don't have 274 outlets? What do you suggest they should do?
I think in the new world, it is so important, more important than ever, to stand for one thing and stand for it hard. You know, you have to find a way to make people love you for the things that you stand for. And if people don't like you because you stand for something important, that's okay too. At the end of the day, it's important that you stand for something and people will notice. And as it becomes harder and harder to break through because there's so many websites, there's so many ways to advertise, the more you can stand for something unique and specific, the better off you'll be in the end.
So people will look at you and say, oh, he's a digital guy. That's easy for Jonathan. He gets it. What about for people who have maybe come up over the last 2 or 3 decades or however many years and don't have as much digital marketing experience? What do you suggest they should do?
I think the number one thing, and it's one of the reasons I'm here at Advertising Week, is find a partner in the space who can help make you better. And one of the best pieces of advice I was ever given was, as a CMO, make sure you find your 4 to 5 best partners and hold them close. And if you're in this space for the first time, or if you don't have the experience in digital, find a partner who's going to make you better, and find a partner who you can make better. And by the two of you working together, you'll be able to do some great stuff.
So can you expand on that? What do you mean by a partner? Is it a web company or somebody else who's in a similar business to yours?
It depends on the size. I think if you're a big enough company where you can afford an agency, I would absolutely go and find a group of people who can help make you better. If you're small and starting out for the first time, there are some great self-help websites that can help do some of the things for you. There's a company called Shopify out of the US that I'm pretty impressed with. You know, you can start a web store on your own. They take care of all the complicated stuff behind the scenes, like search engine optimization, you know, things like customer relationship marketing, all of that stuff, and they just make it fun. And I think the most important thing, and your customers will notice it, is that you love what you're doing. Passion will transcend any amount of marketing, digital, traditional, doesn't matter. If you have people who are your fans, they'll find you.
So 274 outlets, how many employees? 12,000?
12,000.
12,000 employees. So how do you ensure that your employees, you mentioned employee marketing in a way, is so critical. How do you ensure those 12,000 people buy into the vision and the passion?
It's a big part of what we're doing this year. And the first step is making sure you have open communication, actually talking to your employees, bringing them in on some of the good things you're trying to do first before it goes on the outside. The second thing, and I learned this from what Air New Zealand has been doing so successfully in Australia and New Zealand for quite some time, is actually market to your employees. It's okay if you use things like television, digital, traditional, but actually talking to your employees and letting the rest of the country in on the action, let them eavesdrop, is a really, really big part of the journey. And the third is just making sure you actually give your employees a reason to love you.
Final question, Jonathan. Where do you see the Warehouse Group will be in 5 years' time? You've been with them for 5 years. You've put your mark on the customers, on the way the business is done, the marketing programs. Where do you see the Warehouse Group will be?
I think there'll be two major things that'll happen in the next 5 years for us. The first is I think you'll see our footprint evolve with the changing landscape of New Zealand. I think you'll see us move into smaller formats and more distributed formats, things like shop and shops, a lot of that stuff we're testing now. I think it'll just fundamentally change how we use our 274 locations. The second is obviously our online and e-commerce will be so customer-centric that everything will be able to happen the minute you think about it. You'll be able to get a package delivered within a day. You'll be able to have recommendations that are personalized to you. You'll be able to have pricing that's right for the moment you're in. And so I think e-commerce is going to be a massive growth story for us in the next 5 years.
Jonathan Waker, thank you so much for your time on Marketing Matters, and we're going to all look at your career with great fascination.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.
Coming up after the break, we're going to speak to Kaylee Smith from Facebook, who's going to tell us how small to medium businesses can best take advantage of Facebook's amazing reach. Welcome back. Now we speak to Kaylee Smith, who's the head of small to medium business for Facebook in Australia and New Zealand. We're speaking to Kaylee Smith, who's the head of small to medium business for Facebook Australia and New Zealand. Kaylee, welcome to Marketing Matters.
Thanks so much. I'm really happy to be here.
Kaylee, why should small to medium businesses really focus on Facebook to help them achieve their objectives?
Well, Facebook is an amazing platform for small and medium businesses all across Australia. First of all, it doesn't matter what size you are, where you're located, you can use Facebook to build a business. So you could start with a very small audience, a very small budget, and you could target an audience who's interested in your product and service anywhere in Australia or anywhere in the world. Today we have over 210 million people around the world connected to a small business on Facebook. So we think it's unprecedented reach to potential audiences wherever you are.
So what are the opportunities, the specific opportunities given that reach for Australian small to medium businesses with regards to taking advantage of Facebook?
Well, first of all, you can start really simply. Build a business page. Think about using mobile tools to make it a page that's really easy to access wherever you are on the fly. From there, you can build a customer base, you can retarget your customers, build a great audience, sell products, and do anything for free on our platform. If you're interested in buying advertising to help extend your reach and to build a larger audience, that's possible too.
So what do you see are the key trends for small to medium businesses that are doing such successful work with the platform?
I think it's a few things. Targeting is incredible. So you can target down to a small number of people in a location to really sell a product or a service. Mobile first is obviously one of the key trends, and every small business we talk to them about thinking about mobile first creative and making your product and service and your creative easy to see on the fly. And then thirdly, stories. Interact with stories in bite-sized chunks on Instagram or Facebook to get your message out there and help build your brand.
No doubt you and your team probably deal with small to medium businesses that are a bit intimidated by social media and don't know where to start. I know you've said storytelling and getting a Facebook page. What are the other key things that your customers can do or potential customers can do to take advantage of Facebook?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the digital platforms can be really challenging when you think about what you need to do, all the platforms you need to learn. But thankfully, Facebook and other platforms have created some really easy to use tools. We have apps to help you build creative. We have a blueprint training modules to help you learn how to use the platform more successfully, and lots of tools to help our businesses grow.
So what do you see are the key trends, Kaylee? The key 3 trends that are coming in the next 12 to 18 months that SMBs should be aware of?
I'm going to say mobile. That's one. Then I think stories is a really key trend that all small businesses can use. You're out and about, you can take a quick story, engage with your audience and give them a bite-sized chunk of information about your product or service. And then I think vertical video. Really think about how people are using their mobile phone. Vertical video is absolutely a key thing you'll hear from us in the next 12 months.
And what are the learning opportunities you've had over the last 12 to 18 months? What are the things for small to medium businesses in particular that Facebook could be doing better?
I think using digital platforms is still challenging. No matter how many tools we've built, I think there's still challenges for us to get to small businesses across Australia and help them. So we actually launched a program called Facebook Community Boost to get out into regional areas, to get hands-on training to digital businesses all across Australia.
So final question, Kaylee, what do you think are the steps that small to medium businesses should take today to take advantage of artificial intelligence and other technological advances?
First of all, start simple. Get your business page, create some amazing content to engage with your audience, think about how you can target that audience, and then start to get creative. Use some mobile apps, build interesting creative, engage in stories, and really think about what the story you want to tell to your customer base is.
Kaylee, thank you so much for your time talking to us on Marketing Matters.
Thanks so much. It was lovely being here.
Now, our host of the Marketing Tech segment, Susan Werkner, is going to speak to Drake Sutton-Shearer, who's the founder and co-CEO of Prohibited, who helps companies sell and market medical marijuana.
We started Prohibited about 5 years ago to help mainstream cannabis internationally and make sure that people could be educated on such an incredible plant and what it can do for them on the health and wellness side. At the core of it, Prohibited, we create, build, and market cannabis brands to global audiences. So we help design and package different brands. We produce content and we distribute that content across a large media network that reaches about 100 million people a month.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And tell me, with the cannabis, I guess it's an interesting area to specialise in. Why did you specialise in cannabis marketing?
Well, yeah, cannabis marketing is one part of what we do, but the reason to specialize in it is because no one else was really adopting a progressive modern approach to creating and marketing cannabis for global audiences. And so we wanted to do that. It was been very much a legacy kind of a business where it's all about stoners. And we hate using that because really it's about people getting well and getting better and using cannabis instead of opioids or synthetic drugs.
And tell me, with marketing, what makes marketing cannabis or kind of companies that are obviously in the cannabis area different to any other business?
Well, it's a phenomenal industry. There's more stories in the cannabis industry than I can count. You've got real, true, authentic, genuine people who've had real hardships, right? Growing cannabis or using cannabis. Maybe they've been jailed for things that they should have not been, right? And so it's all about helping people. So if we can help people get better through cannabis, and we can help other people discover cannabis so they can get better, then that's one of the reasons why we're doing this.
I know that the market is very crowded. There's a lot of small players around the world, I guess, in this area. Which countries are doing marketing well for their cannabis companies?
Sure. I mean, it's an exploding industry. Just in Canada and the U.S. alone, there's more than 75,000 cannabis companies. But you've got 250 million people in a post-prohibition economy now between Canada and the U.S., yet markets are very different. In the American market, it's more of an adult use market and medicinal, which means you can create lifestyle brands. And in Canada, there's a lot more packaging restrictions, so really you can't create those same kind of brands in the same way you could in the US.
I believe there's a couple of Canadian companies exhibiting at Adweek, is that right?
There are. We're very excited to have Atlas Growers, who are a phenomenal cultivator out of Edmonton in Canada, and Namaste Technologies, which is a public company that creates e-commerce solutions for cannabis companies.
There's a lot of Australian listed companies like MTC Pharma also in this niche. What advice would you give to smaller businesses in a very crowded niche trying to make a name for themselves?
Sure. I think at the moment you've got, on the Australian Stock Exchange more than $1 billion of market capitalization with some of these companies that are listed. I think that for investor relations, you've got to tell great stories, you need great products, but more than that, you need to create value for consumers. Consumers these days are more interested in value, right, than just having the best of something. So show them, why it matters, how it can work, and most of all, how it can improve their lives, and you'll help to build, brand credibility with them. And that's one way to have a successful product if you're a company looking to list on the Australian Exchange.
Final question then, where do you see the business in 5 years' time?
Well, I think it's a $350 billion category or more globally. Europe alone is about 113 billion euros by 2028. That's going to be a massive market. I think that cannabis is going to overtake opioids and synthetic drugs, and people will finally realize what a great, phenomenal plant this is and how it can help them.
Thank you, Drake, very much for your time.
Thank you, Susan.
That's all for this episode. Thanks for watching Marketing Matters, and we're going to have more from Advertising Week next week, so don't miss it.